Well, I started calling care directors in the social and care services, and I was saying, hey, we are building this robotics stuff for you guys and for you users. Would you like to know more? Do you have some AI stuff there? And they were like, yeah, come here. I was like, before, I mean, that was mind-blowing, yeah. I was thinking that they are so resistant of any technology. It was contrary opposite.
Hi everyone, so in this interview we speak with Kalle Makinen, who's the co-founder of QLuve. QLuve is a company that set out to build LLM-based AI companion robots for people in elderly care and disability care. The company no longer operates, but we thought the story was worth telling anyway, and the experience left Kalle with a lot of lessons on deployment and regulation in Europe, which he shared with us. So we hope you enjoy.
So we're here today in Helsinki. And we're going to talk a little bit about your experience building in robotics, specifically in Finland, maybe the challenges that you faced. So maybe you can start by telling us a bit what your company did.
Yeah, sure. Well, initially it started like a companion robot for elder people to tackle loneliness. We started to elaborate on that idea of how the elders in care homes could live happier, and also the staff could somehow benefit from that in a way that the companion robot would reduce their kind of time, and they could devote more time for meaningful interactions instead of spending time of reminding of medication. So the robot would take care of the reminders, and the nurse and staff could just be there with the elders, just be present instead of thinking what should I tell about the medication, did the person take that, this and that, or whatever, whatnot. So that's how it started, and basically what I just did, I started cold calling care operators and care home directors, and make discovery calls about kind of, are you using technology? What kind of technology you guys have there? Would this be interesting to hear more? We could come to tell a little bit more, and then it evolved into meetings, and we went to talk with the care directors and care home operators. And what turned out was kind of a sad thing in Finland, that the care homes for elders are mostly for elder people who are already in such a bad shape that this kind of companion robot that would stimulate them cognitively would not have been so valuable, because they were required to have kind of 24/7 assistance from the nurses anyway. So we started figuring out, should this be then the kind of consumer product for elders and family members and so on and so forth, because we had this kind of backend, this app that the person could send reminders from the mobile to the robot. The robot would tell in plain natural language those reminders for the users, and so we thought, okay, families could benefit this, so that if my mom lives somewhere in Rovaniemi, I'm in Helsinki, so I could check from the app that what kind of feeling she had today, and did she took her medication, and
so a level of sentiment analysis, reminders, and then also a bit of emotional support as well, right? Where they can help with certain decisions.
Yeah, exactly. In kind of cognitive way, the robot could also kind of start conversation or help to decide about what kind of clothes should I put today, or what kind of activities. It could remind that, hey, now it would be nice time to take some water and maybe have a small walk in 30 minutes, and it would remind about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And what was the moment that you noticed that was specifically useful? Like these kind of decision making and reminders, and with patients that you realized, okay, this is really something that they need.
Yeah, there's kind of a backstory I didn't mention, but okay, we first were talking with the care homes with the elder people, with senior citizens, and the care director said that our senior people are already in a kind of between rock and a hard place, that they need assistance anyway, so the robot wouldn't have any value. But what about those social services with people with autistic stuff and cognitive challenges? They would benefit so much of companion robot that could kind of increase their feeling of independence, help them in daily decision making, and help them to navigate different kind of questions they might have, or just be there to talk about anything like crime stories or find information about bus timetables, because autistic persons, they have a very nice, very kind of peculiar way to see the world.
Yeah.
And the robot doesn't mind. The robot answers into any kind of questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that came to be our kind of a product market fit at the end of the day. So we started to go to the social services, and we deployed several units to disabled persons. And there was this moment that we were in this social service operator's coffee room, and we had the robot there, and the staff member said to one of the users, potential users, that, hey, we have this QLuve robot here, what do you think about it?
Yeah.
Oh, it looks cute, would you like to give a name to the robot? And she said, oh yes, and she named it as her best, most important pop artist. So the nickname was very kind of emotional to her. And then the staff member said that, hey, what about, would you like to ask something about the robot? And the person, and the user said, should I go to sauna or not? And the robot comes, well, it's kind of a frosty day today. Why don't you go to sauna if you feel okay about that thing? And she was like, oh my God, this is so good. Now I will go to sauna. So that kind of manifested that kind of simple, mundane decision-making support was so valuable for the user. No matter what the question, the robot never gets tired answering.
Yeah, so just this conversational
Yeah.
function was something that you realized was really missing, and
Yeah.
took a lot of time, I guess, from friends, family, and
Yeah.
the care professionals.
Yeah, for the care professionals especially, they were like, okay, we used to answer 10 times to the same question, what socks should I wear today?
Yeah.
Now the robot answers that, and we can concentrate of other stuff when we are with them. So,
Yeah.
so, and also the users said that, hey, this is, I mean, I feel that they felt like more independent and more empowered.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
And that was clearly an evidence that there was kind of a product market fit in that segment.
Right, so once you noticed that fit, where did you go from there?
Yeah, we continued measuring the impact, and then as it turns out, of course there was this kind of API cost involved, and all the hardware costs as well. So our runway was minimal. We did everything with our own funding. My co-founder had some nominal fee from a startup boot camp, but that wasn't either enough. So we needed to wrap up the operations after some time, basically because of the lack of funding at that point.
Yeah, and you told me about another big barrier that you faced, which was sort of the compliance requirements when you're building a product which can be classified as a medical device, at least in Europe.
Yeah, well, what happened that we were kind of maybe a bit naive. We were thinking that this is not a medical device, and those compliance stuff don't really kind of touch us. But in a way, it was a medical, or it is a medical device, because it captured the kind of sentiment of the user's feeling and the sentiment of the conversations. So eventually it was about user data, and those users were patients under that umbrella.
Under GDPR,
yeah,
right, yeah.
So there was this GDPR, and a part of the GDPR was also because we were kind of minimally funded, so we had to use the most efficient and cost-effective APIs, and OpenAI had a very cost-effective for our users, but usage. So, but there was this challenge because part of that data went all the way to the OpenAI servers, and that was a clear blocker. And because it was a conversational interface, the European Mistral wasn't in that latency and that speed that we could have deployed it with a good user experience at that time. Now it could be better. And of
Tried
course,
a few different GDPR compliant service
no.
providers.
At the end of the day, we didn't go that far because it would have required to completely building the architecture again.
I see.
From scratch. And what people don't realize actually in this robotics space, and this, if it's kind of an interactive mechanism with the user and with the staff members and with other parties, there's this kind of a continuous fine-tuning of the interaction and the code base. There are several components. There's the staff member code base, user interface stuff. There's the actual robot with the user and all the architecture around that. So what we were doing, we're continuously modifying the code base based on the user interaction and based on how I went physically several times to see it in action and ask the users, the staff members, how does it feel, and there was a lot of stuff about the latency and the speed of answering, and so it was kind of tweaking all the time. So
there was a lot of overhead, let's say, initially to develop to the level that you need.
Yeah, exactly. So it takes some time of tweaking it according based on the user usage and user response and user behavior.
I see. Yeah. And was this like was there a reason that you specifically wanted to embody these chatbots, these LLMs, instead of having them on digital interface as they are today?
Partly because of the kind of the human nature wants to interact something which is more kind of you can relate to emotionally. So Sunil decided to design that kind of figurine, which is kind of a combination of some animal or some human characteristics, but doesn't really represent anything, but it's easy to relate instead of just looking at screen or something. So we wanted to create kind of a universal artifact that would be nice and easy and approachable for any user.
Did you ever think about like further risks that the robot might have in terms of prompting the user or the patient, in our case, to take an action which might be unsafe for them, for example?
Yeah, definitely. We were kind of thinking about all kind of these interactions that in the future we'll integrate with Vault, and you can order food by saying to that robot. But the kind of guardrails, we thought that okay, if there's a $1 billion company that we're using the LLMs of OpenAI, they have those guardrails figured out already. So why should we start figuring out any separate guardrails in that respect? I had several discussions with the care staff members and the social sector representatives that okay, that in the future when we would deploy the second version, we would make each entity kind of more personalized, like hyper personalization according to the kind of user's context or user's profile in a way. So because we saw a lot of value in that the robot would be even more tailored according to the kind of cognitive profile of a user. That was a huge takeaway in a way, actually.
What would you say is like something that you didn't expect before building in the space specifically, or like the challenges? How do they differ from, let's say, your expectations?
Yeah, I have big experience of working in B2B sector with kind of managers, directors of whatnot, head of whatnot in business context. And well, I started calling care directors in their social and care services, and I was saying, hey, we are building this robotics stuff for you guys and for you users. Would you like to know more? Do you have some AI stuff there? And they were like, yeah, come here. I was like, before, I mean, that was mind-blowing, yeah. I was thinking that they are so resistant of any technology. But it was contrary opposite.
Yeah, so it's really, you're surprised to see that the resistance comes not from the actual users, the let's say even the institutions. It was more from just the compliance factor.
Yeah, it's more, yeah, definitely. The resistance comes from the idea of there's this compliance, so that's why I don't do it. But the users, they would love to have it, and the regulation should allow it more flexibly. Yeah.
I mean, do you think that there should be some kind of middle ground? How would you design regulation to enable or at least not reduce the amount of innovation that happens?
Yeah, actually, I'm not so sure if it if it's a blocker at all. It's kind of you take it a part of the first steps of the design. You consider the regulation as a factor that's beneficial because it gives you a kind of structure already. But if you don't consider it in very nitty-gritty detail in early phases, then it becomes a blocker. Our runway went down before we had the possibility to build it again with the compliance architecture in place. I had this moment. I was talking with the chief of development with this biggest operator of social services in Finland, and she asked me, did you have this already in the register of whatnot? And I asked, what is that register? And they was like, yeah, sorry, you got to have that.
You gotta register
yeah,
the device or
yeah. I was also like kind of let's just build and deploy,
right,
and learn on the fly.
It's clear that hardware just requires much more initial investment and more capital at risk. I'd be really curious to know about your experience maybe raising or attempting to raise. Since hardware requires a higher initial investment than typical software plays, do you feel like that capital is really as available in Finland, and kind of what were the limitations that you faced there?
Yeah, we faced big limitation, like we are hyper-focused only to software stuff, or we are hyper-focused on only deep tech with strong scientific evidence before committing into anything. And in those VCs that were about robotics, we were kind of more in the middle ground. We were not industrial robotics. We were not strictly like B2C gadget consumer stuff.
So I guess there was a bit of a lack, let's say, in the middle segment between pure deep tech hardware and this more consumer-facing gadget hardware. Electronics.
Yeah, I suppose it was kind of a lesson for us also that those VCs, they were either too much into deep tech or too much into pure software. So, and those early stage VCs that Finland operate, concept of early stage, we were so early because it was basically kind of a proof of concept stage. Right. So if I would go to race now, would be a better moment. I would make the pitch deck again with fine-tuning with the findings from the proof of concept project we had with the user. So it would be a more kind of focused attempt, but the message was very clear that we are only hyper focused to software, laser focused to that, or just considering deep tech with very strong scientific evidence about the impact and so on and so forth. So also kind of the legacy of so much software startup is so strong because they know that you can always pivot so fastly with the software as when when you have a physical component, you are locked in with that investment in the physical sense. And creating the code base for the physical component plus the backend also takes more time and requires kind of a user interaction.
Testing's much harder.
Yeah,
takes a lot of time.
exactly.
In summary, what do you think it would take to make the environment more conducive to building things like this that are specifically not super consumer based and not very deep tech, that maybe involve more regulation currently? I think it just takes braver VCs or a new model of regulation. What do you think is for you
I think the regulation as such is already in a good place in a way that you just have to consider it and take it into account in very early stage of the design and concept, and have the constraints figured out before doing any kind of hardware buying from the provider in that, and before going in any pilot phase. So it's kind of it's not a blocker in a way, considering it very early on. But that's the thing that those software stuff, they just need to think about GDPR and that's it.
But I think with time we're also going to start adapting in Europe. I think VCs will begin to realize that we have to risk capital as well, and we really have the talent, right? It's just more about this appetite for risk.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, looking forward what's coming up.
Yep. Thank you so much then for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
And,
you bet.
Yeah, see you around.
See ya.